Okay, we are
Christine did
recording.
such a nice job.
That
And
is,
Christine did such a nice job moderating while we were chatting.
thank you. Yeah, Meg and I were gabbing on the phone, talking about all the stuff, all the things, as you young kids say these days, all the things. Okay, let's do this thing, shall we? Welcome, everyone, to ISIS Parenting Sleep Support Webinar and Chat. My name is Nancy Holtzman. I'm a mom and baby nurse educator, board-certified lactation consultant, and board-certified in pediatrics. I'm the mom of 2 older teenagers. One is a new college student, and I am here outside of Boston, Massachusetts, at ISIS Parenting's home office in Needham, Mass, where we have 4 centers in the greater Boston area. We also have 5 brand new ISIS centers located within Babies R Us in the Dallas and Fort Worth areas. And then we have 4 additional ISIS centers located within Babies R Us in the Atlanta, Georgia area. So please spread the word. Come see us at one of our centers. Send your friends and family. And if you don't live near Massachusetts, Atlanta, or Dallas, Fort Worth, then it's a nice thing that we are here online for you, just for you. So with me today, as she is every Tuesday at 12 noon, is my friend and colleague, Megan Casano. Meg is also a registered nurse, mom of 4 gorgeous young ladies who are a little bit older than they appear in this photo. And today we are going to talk about older baby and toddler bedtime routines. How you doing there, Meg?
Good. Thanks for the intro, Nancy, and thanks for joining, everyone. This is one of my favorite age groups, as Nancy knows, particularly the older side of this. When it comes to solving sleep problems, I just find it so fulfilling. So I love to talk about this. So the first things first, if you feel like you're having some trouble with your toddler, maybe you're getting some bedtime battles, or a little pushback when it's time to go to sleep, you need to just take a step back and examine and make sure you're setting the stage. So yes, we are talking about the bedtime routine today, for sure, but sometimes the events that lead up to the bedtime routine are equally important. And so the first thing is timing. And one of the most common problems I see from families with older toddlers, especially as you start to get closer to age 2 and even move past 2, is the whole, like, wait a second, my baby doesn't need 15 hours of sleep in a day anymore? Like, what? My 2-year-old won't take a 3-hour nap and sleep 12 hours at night? So it's really sort of adjusting your expectation. As your baby grows and gets older and moves into toddlerhood, his sleep needs will decrease a little bit as those 2 naps merge into 1. And so you might want to check out the webinar that we have recorded on toddler schedules. And so you might want to just take a look and make sure your nap times are working for you. If you have a younger toddler, like in the 18 to 22 month range, who's still napping twice a day, her night is probably condensing, shortening a bit. Later bedtime, maybe earlier wake time, and that would be normal. And so if you're getting some bedtime battles, it might be that you're trying to put your child to bed at the wrong time. If your child has already transitioned to 1 nap, you want to make sure that that nap is balanced in the day, not too early, not too late. And so before you really fine-tune your bedtime routine, you've got to make sure the timing is right. When you're thinking about your toddler and bedtime, same thing apply. We've talked about in almost all of our webinars, the circadian rhythm. You want the circadian rhythm working for you. It will help you. Circadian rhythm is a clock. It's the body clock, and it can become very regular if you provide your child with regular bedtimes, regular wake times. We're not suggesting you be rigid, but give yourself about a 30-minute window night to night with bedtime, 30-minute window morning to morning with wake up time. Keep your nap roughly midpoint of the day. Try not to have huge fluctuations day to day. There are exceptions to that, of course, without going into everything in detail, but sometimes extreme overtiredness, maybe your child has had an illness, developmental milestones might throw that off just a little bit. But for the most part, you want to make sure bedtimes and wake times are nice and regular. That can help reduce your bedtime antics. The sleep pressure, this goes along with the timing too, that you're making sure your child has enough sleep pressure, that sleep drive, how sleepy they are, to be able to fall asleep quickly and easily at bedtime. So you want circadian rhythm working with sleep pressure. You don't want sleep pressure working against your child's circadian rhythm. So it's important. That's one of the great things when you come to ISIS for a sleep consult, you're really working with people who understand how these two sleep drives work together or can work against each other, because a lot of people don't take that into consideration. Okay, you're going to set the stage too, making sure your child has an ideal sleep environment. It's nice and dark. This is the age that a lot of parents start to ask, what about a night light? Because my newborn baby was fine without a night light. And, babies and toddlers, as they grow older, certainly can learn to become a little afraid of the dark. Many adults are afraid of the dark too, and we project that onto our children. Night lights are fine for safety or comfort, but remember, and again, you might want to click back and look at some of the webinars we've recorded, room environment, for example. You want to make sure your nightlight is not too bright. I have to say, having 4 kids and trying a number of different things, most of the nightlights you buy off the shelf in a store are too bright. This OXO candela, the OXO Zoom, is a cute little red rocket shape. We like that one because it's a red light. Red light is neutral light. Some of the other colors of light, blues, greens, those are more stimulating colors. So the red OXO, that's a good one. If you have a night light that you like, you may be able to get a bulb that's a dimmer wattage or more of an orangey or ambery color, for example. Or maybe you can put your bright night light behind a piece of furniture. Make sure it's on the other side of the room from your child because there's a half-life to light exposure. In other words, light will cue your child to be awake. So light is not negotiable when it comes to going to bed. And if your toddler, your 2.5-year-old is running around and turning on the lights, you've got to unscrew the light bulbs or duct tape the light switch. It's not a negotiable part of the bedtime routine because it's a total conflict in what you're trying to ask your child to do in going to sleep. So if your child has become accustomed, maybe your toddler has become accustomed to falling asleep with the lights on, it's always a trade. It's not taking away something with a toddler. It's always a trade. You help her, or she helps you pick out a cute nightlight in a store or online or whatever, and then you trade that while you're unscrewing light bulbs or covering up light switches that she might be turning on. Okay, so darkness in the room, a great sleep environment. Your toddler is very susceptible to change, and remember too that we all wake up during sleep cycles, between sleep cycles in the night, every 60 to 90 minutes. You're not even aware that you're doing it most of the time, but you are. And so wake-ups in the night are actually normal. We don't expect your child to never wake up, but if your child wakes in the night and something has changed, it can trigger a more full arousal and some, where your child's calling to you and, looking for your help in getting the room back to the way he feels it should be. So you want your child's room unchanging all night. Nothing's shutting off. Nothing's turning on. And so if you're using, little music for relaxation, or some things have star projectors on the ceiling, that may be helpful while you're settling down, getting ready for bed. But you'll want to make sure music or lights are turned off when your child's actually falling asleep. As far as where the bedtime routine should be taking place, I say this because this is a common question too. A lot of families feel like it only should take place in the bedroom. For some kids that is helpful, but if you have an odd room set up, or or you have multiple siblings or children that you're trying to put to bed all at the same time, or you just have a place that's more comfortable for you, the bedtime routine can actually occur anywhere. The biggest thing is that it's kind of quiet, dimly lit, it's a calm place, and it's a place where you can do some predictable steps. And so let's say your bedtime routine takes place on your bed and you're snuggling and reading some stories. You may then walk into your child's room and you might do a last little hug, kiss, snuggle, lullaby, some last tiny little element in their own room, and that would be perfectly fine. So how long should the bedtime routine take? Typically at bedtime, you do want about 15 to 30 minutes of transition time. Nap time is often a little shorter, 5 to 15 minutes. You know your child best. If at nap time 5 minutes isn't enough time, then you might need, your child needs a little bit longer to sort of unwind. That may be helpful for some kids. The biggest thing is if it's more than 30 minutes, your child's going to start to lose sight of what's happening. And so we like to sort of differentiate here between your evening routine activities versus your actual bedtime routine activities. And those of you who listened last week heard me say this too. It's the same thing with babies. You probably have things like your bath, your PJs, your brushing teeth. Those things might be more of your evening routine. For example, your child's bath might not always happen at the same time every night. If they have playing in the mud and they need an early bath or something, that's fine. Maybe you have an off night and you do something different, like Skype with a grandparent or make a phone call with a family member, or some family activity. That's all fine. The bedtime routine is sort of those last elements of your evening that you really try to protect. They're kind of untouched. You're spending 15 to 30 minutes doing some nice regular steps. And so your toddler really knows what's coming next. That predictability for toddlers is actually really reassuring. It's anxiety reducing. And so that's the real key part of your bedtime routine. It's predictable and it has an end, and everyone knows the end. And so sometimes it's helpful if that's something auditory for a toddler, like you say some last special words, or you sing a song, or you have a little rhymey, silly, kissy thing, or whatever that you do with your child. And that signifies the end. And then your behavior changes. You turn into more night mommy, night daddy, or night babysitter, or whoever. You become more quiet, calm, boring. You switch into your night mode. So when you are thinking about the actual bedtime routine, and so up to now, you've got the time is right, the environment is right, you've planned the right amount of time. And so if you've been having trouble up to this point, or you're feeling like you're sort of stuck in a baby routine and it's time to switch to more of a toddler routine, it's helpful if you try to appeal to your toddler's senses. And I say, now this doesn't mean that every single family should be doing these things. Some toddlers roll with their bedtime routine just fine. This is more if you're having trouble and you're looking to make a change, you're looking to sort of rein in some of your toddler's antics, it can be helpful if you sort of take a break, change it up a little bit. And one of the things that you might find really helpful is to make a chart. A routine chart, you might want to call it, or something kind of friendly, not like a rule chart, but it's more routine. It's all semantics with toddlers, It can be really helpful if you use some photos. You might download some photos online, or you might even take some photos of your child. Actually, this is a really cute picture right here of the child reading the books. And so whatever steps your bedtime routine includes, whether it's brushing teeth, whether it's reading 2 books, maybe this little guy has his pacifier, maybe it's finding your lovey or finding your pacifier, maybe it's going potty, maybe it's getting a sip of water, maybe it's singing a lullaby. Not too complicated, but the photos go on the chart. And then your child can actually see the steps in order that you're going to be doing. If you have a toddler who seems to do well with multisensory stimulation, you might actually go ahead and put your photos on a chart, but then clip a clothespin at the top. And as your child is accomplishing each step of the chart, he's moving the clothespin down the list. Now, an 18-month-old probably wouldn't be able to do this, of course, but the older kids could do really well with this. And so it gives your child a sense of accomplishment. He can see the clothespin moving down the list. It kind of takes the onus off you. It's not mom or dad saying this is what you have to do. It's the chart saying it. And so that can be a really nice way to kind of drive your bedtime routine in the right direction. As far as the all done envelope is another nice technique that you can actually take those same photos. You could do double-sided Velcro or just a little piece of rolled up tape, and your child could actually take the photos off the chart and put them in the all done envelope. Same idea, sense of accomplishment, giving your child a task, giving them some independence, and accomplishing the steps that you really need done. With any bedtime routine, you do want it to end when your child is awake, if it's your desire for your child to know how to fall asleep independently and therefore to be able to do that in the middle of the night. If your child is falling asleep with you in the room, it's natural that he would expect to look for you in the night, and really only fair that you would provide that for him in the night as well, because that's the way he thinks is the right way to fall asleep. So if that's not your goal, to be helping your child back to sleep in the middle of the night at this age, you will want to make sure your child is learning to go to sleep on his own at bedtime. Now, I said this last week too, that I know that it's all great to talk about the timing and the environment and the bedtime routine. And then, of course, what comes next is sleep. If your child is having trouble with that part of things, then we can always help you with that too. Individual sleep consults are always a great way to really kind of fine-tune your family's particular trouble and style, and really give you a way to actually help you navigate what comes after the bedtime routine. But hopefully this will get you started in creating some more order to your toddler's bedtime routine process. You do actually want to still do a bedtime routine for naps. That one tends to be a little bit shorter, not so, typically not quite as involved as the bedtime routine. But you do want to allow about 5 to 15 minutes. Make sure you're having that transition time. I find that many families kind of, go, play all morning, and then kind of try to just plop baby into the crib, and that doesn't always go so well. So do put a little time in. Be predictable, have that transition time before the nap, so that will help your baby with nap time as well. And the dawdling. Potty, drink, another drink. This is my favorite part. Oh, I love talking about this. So dawdling and getting sidetracked, multiple requests, reasonable and unreasonable demands. So now reasonable and unreasonable demands may vary a little bit by family. What some families might be willing to tolerate might be different than another family. And really you want to kind of decide, do you want to allow your child to have 1 or 2 more check-ins? Forgot this, forgot that. For some kids, it's, 1 more check and they are fine. For other kids, it snowballs into one after another. And so that's where you really want to make sure you've met all your child's needs as part of the bedtime routine. She's had her drink, or she has her little sippy cup. By the way, I don't recommend sippy cups full of huge amounts of water. That keeps urine production increased overnight, and that's not so helpful for sleep. Your child doesn't need to be drinking huge cups of water all night. Little sip, here and there, yes, maybe. Make sure that it's a safe cup for your child to have all night. But you're making sure that you've met those needs as part of your bedtime routine. Now, if you think, a little trip to the potty, post tuck-in for a child who's maybe starting potty training, that may be appropriate. But the thing I'll say about the potty is just be sure to keep it boring. You're not doing potty parties or potty stickers. Once it's lights out, then really any trip to the potty is very boring. It has to stay dark, so make sure you have a night light on in your bathroom, and it's just a quick, boring trip. Do the business and straight back to bed. It has to be, so in other words, yes, you meet the need of your child that way, but it's not like a super fun thing that's going to encourage your child to keep asking to go potty. If that's getting a little out of control and your child has found, hey, if I say I have to go potty, this is one more, cruise down the hallway and check out what everyone's doing, you might need to actually say goodnight to the big potty when your child's going to bed, like literally say goodnight to it. And then you might put a little potty in your child's room. And so if they do have to get up, you quietly, calmly sit them on the pot right there in their room in the dark and put them back to bed. And so that tends to eliminate the extra potty trips, unless it's really legit. And then, your child's in the room, it's quiet, it's dark, it's boring, and you've sort of teased out if this is a real request or if this is a reasonable demand or an unreasonable one. And again, if you're really having trouble, or if you have, if your toddler has developed some fears, some anxieties, some nightmares, these are things that an individualized sleep consult can really help you sort of figure out and puzzle together as you're trying to work this into what's appropriate for your child's bedtime routine, and then the subsequent falling asleep. I love this picture. It looks like he fell asleep there over the side of his bed. I'm sure his mama tucked him in nicely after she snapped this picture. And, hey, it happens sometimes. So if you need help, we can help you try to avoid this. We're happy to. We love talking about toddlers. And so give us a call for a sleep consult.
Awesome. This, I have to mention, by the way, this is Meredith's son. She is, I know it's shocking, not on Twitter, but yes, her son is just turned 3. He does look long there, and Meredith is our buyer for all of the sleep-related products, sleep and breastfeeding. Those are her areas here. So she's our merchant. Okay, I have a couple of related questions from the topic today. This one I thought was great. How would you manage a toddler who has a strong preference for one parent to do the bedtime routine? And this mom says that her daughter strongly prefers her husband and will cry if he isn't home, and he often works evenings, and they do keep the same bedtime routine in a similar style. She was thinking of doing a chart about today is mommy's day, today is daddy's day, or something like that. She sleeps well, few wake-ups, but she's very adamant that she wants daddy to put her to bed.
Yeah, so I would say the same thing that I would say to, if the roles were reversed. We get this question all the time, whether it's, my child doesn't want daddy to put her to bed, she only wants mommy, or in this case it's reversed, wants daddy, doesn't want mommy. First, I always say to the parent who the child has decided at this developmental stage, because it's going to change, but at this developmental stage she wants daddy. And it's hard for mom not to feel bad about that, but try not to take it personally. If you want to, now I don't know if there's been any type of, like, for example, if mom tries to put her to bed and the child's, wanting daddy, calling, asking, maybe having a tantrum, I don't know, maybe not, and then mom says, okay, I'll go get dad. So I don't know if there's been any of that going on. That can sometimes snowball, like it becomes like a power struggle kind of thing. Maybe not, but the important thing is to sort of reflect back, and if you can honestly say, like, yeah, maybe we've let her drive the bus a little bit, but we really want to decide what works best for our family, then I love your idea of, as part of your routine chart, having, today is mommy's day, today is daddy's day. I think that's great. I would not be talking about it all day long. I would not be like reminding her, because that can get a little stressful. If she asks, fine. But, as you're starting to get ready for bed, she can see the chart, and then it's not, parents necessarily making the decision and her feeling resentful or you feeling bad. It's, hey, there it is on the chart. So it's a good neutral ground. And then, you just do it. If she is a little unhappy, or, she's trying to, maneuver her way in her little toddler way of thinking, pulling out all the stops to see if she can get daddy to come in, then, mom just keeps going. Go through the chart. Keep going through each of your steps. Stay very calm. And typically it takes about 3 nights or so for a toddler to sort of believe you that what you're saying you're going to do is really what you are going to do. And so you keep at it, be consistent. If she's having, a tantrum, or you're getting resistance at any point along the line of your bedtime routine chart, like for example, books. I don't want you to read me my books. I want daddy to read me my books. I didn't want that book. And she's throwing them around. Then you can just calmly go up to the chart and say, okay, if you're not, if you don't want this book tonight, or you're not ready to read books tonight, let's see what comes next on your list. And you just calmly keep going. Keep going through it. And my guess, again, that consistency, that sort of her knowing that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, that in the end will become reassuring and calming to her, although she's going to try to poke holes in it for the first 3 nights. That's her job as a toddler. And so just stay really consistent, and you can have your both parents back involved in the routine, probably just by the end of a week, really, if not sooner.
Great. Meg makes everything sound so easy and reasonable. I want Meg to be my mommy.
Oh,
okay.
Thanks.
Next question. Here's a mom who's trying to figure out the timing of bedtime for her 1.5-year-old. He has nightly tantrums at bedtime and sometimes will be running around just before bed as though he's perhaps overtired. She's tried moving bedtime earlier. She's tried moving bedtime later. Nothing seems to help. Is it just him being a toddler? Right now, their bedtime is about 7:30. He probably doesn't fall asleep until 8. And his nap time typically is from 1 to 3. So that sounds okay. Maybe a little late. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I mean, that's a pretty normal-ish nap time. Maybe slightly on the later side if she wants the early bedtime, but the antics that you're seeing, around like 7:30, that's probably your child in his wake maintenance zone, which is it's part of the circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm, drives your baby to sleep at regular times, does other things too. But one of the counterintuitive things that the circadian rhythm does has a strong drive to be awake just before the strong drive to sleep. That's called wake maintenance zone. In other words, there is a period of time before your child's typical bedtime where it's very hard for him to fall asleep. And if you put him to bed in his wake maintenance zone, he's not going to sleep. And sometimes that burst of energy, it could also be look at what he's eating. Is he having sugar? Blah, blah, blah. Is he sensitive to that? Sure. What's he having for dinner? But, for the most part, I'm guessing with the nap from 1 to 3, and then the burst of energy and not falling to sleep until 8, you probably heard me say, or those of you who listen regularly have heard me say, Christine, you know what I'm going to say? Many 2.5-year-olds, toddlers, need at least 5 hours of being awake before they're ready to fall asleep quickly and easily and sustain sleep through the night. And so it actually, the fact that he's napping from 1 to 3 and falling asleep at 8, that's a big tell. I would say automatically switch his bedtime to 8 for the next 3 to 5 nights. Automatic. Maybe even 8:15 if you're having a lot of bedtime antics. Sometimes it's good even to go 15 minutes later than your child's achievable sleep time. You don't want an excessively long bedtime routine. You're going to start your bedtime routine later than you normally do. Rein it in, make it nice and consistent, have it end around 8 to 8:15 with your final tuck-in. And that will handle the biological side. There's always a biological fix to a problem. So that's going to address the timing, look at the environment. You've got your bedtime routine, but then there's always the psychological fix too. So if your child has picked up some sort of maybe bad habits or anxieties about going to sleep because it wasn't the right time for him or what have you, you might also need to pair some sort of sleep intervention with this. But the time shift alone, accompanied with the bedtime routine tweaks, might be all you need. Okay?
All right. Do you have time to take one more question?
I do. Sure.
Okay. I thought this was a good one. This is a question about travel. Mom did do her due diligence and watched our travel webinar, but this question wasn't fully answered for her. 14-month-old, they're traveling this weekend, and she would love some advice on how to share a room with her 14-month-old in the pack and play. For example, do they put her to bed in the pack and play, leave the room until she falls asleep, and then sneak back in and hang out with the lights off? She's very social and will fight sleep at all costs to spend time with us and play. So she's worried what she'll do if she knows the parents are in the same room. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. And baby's temperament can often play a really big role in how this goes for you. The first thing I would say is put her to bed about 15 minutes later than you usually do on the first night you arrive in a new place. That assumes naps were pretty decent. I mean, if she's a miserable, overtired wreck from travel during the day, that might not apply. But assuming she got some naps, put her to bed 15 minutes later so her sleep pressure is high, and she can fall asleep more quickly. That's the hope. Make sure the room is nice and dark. It's a new place, and so it's normal that when she wakes in the night every 60 to 90 minutes and has that checking response, which we all do, we check our environment, things are going to be different. And so it's actually, I wouldn't be surprised if she had some extra wake-ups and required a little bit of reassurance from you. That would be appropriate. Don't feel like you're doing something wrong or bad if you're providing her some reassurance in the night. Try not to go overboard if you can. Quiet shushing from your bed might be all it takes. But really, it's dark. Use a white noise machine to try to mask you rolling over in the bed. As far as sneaking out, honestly, that you kind of have to do whatever works. Yeah, you're probably going to have to have it dark and lie like a statue on the bed if you're in a hotel room. Maybe, oh my gosh, one time my husband and I ate dinner in the hotel bathroom while the kids were falling asleep out in the dark hotel room. That was kind of skeevy, but you do what you have to do. I don't know, Nancy, do you, hotel bathroom closet big enough to fit the pack and play, says Christine. It kind of depends on
even if you just
where you're going.
Even if you just put half of the pack and play like into the closet, if the other half doesn't fit, you just put it in the long way, and then it helps a little bit. I have to say that there's nothing better than having getting a suite or paying a little bit extra so that you have that little sitting room and the bedroom separate when you're traveling with children.
Yeah.
Okay, there are still a few more questions, but we do need to wrap up. So thank you, everyone, for coming in. And these were good questions. Oh, there was one quick one I was going to answer. Lauren, yes, the answer for your question, I think, is that the child's circadian rhythm can handle 30-minute shifts in either direction primarily, but not a lot more than that. So if you want to try to keep the same routine, I would keep not let your toddler sleep very late on the weekends, because it will push everything a little bit later. So maybe half an hour later, but not a full hour or more later, if you want to keep your naps routine. And then keep the bedtime routine. And then was it also your question, somebody's question about switching to the toddler bed? I will post a link. We have a whole webinar on tips for transitioning from the crib to the toddler bed. So I will put that link up for you. Meg, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Don't you just all want to rub those babies' backs and pat those cloth diapered butts? Because I really do. And I have to say, I held those babies. These are little Texas babies. Yeah, these are Texas babies. They were just as cute, but they were quite a bit bigger when I held them, because now I think they're about 7 or 8 months old. But they were about 6 months old when I met them. Okay, we are done for today. And Meg, thank you. Everybody, thank you. On Thursday, for those of you interested, the breastfeeding webinar topic will be blocked ducts and clogged nipple pores. Oh, joy. So come and learn and share your own experiences on those delicious lumpy things. And we'll see you back here next Tuesday for more sleep talk. Bye-bye. Thanks, Meg.